Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we have very big news coming out of Moscow. Last night we saw the Ukrainian forces launch the largest drone attack of the war on the city of Moscow, and also the surrounding airports as well, and the damage was very extensive, and we have all the video evidence and footage from these attacks, which is incredible to see the extent of the damage. It was very large, and also we are getting word as well that Iran has shipped missiles to Russia. Russia's now in possession of those missiles, and they plan to use those in the next couple of weeks in the Ukraine war. So as a result of that, we're seeing the US start sanctioning Iran, and things are escalating on that front. And finally, we have another massive piece of news that the Kursk nuclear power plant is currently on lockdown due to the Russians getting scared that Ukrainian forces are once again approaching that plant. But with that, we're jumping into our first article of the day, which goes to Nexta. And this is by far the biggest story of the day. We saw a historic drone attack in the Moscow region last night, and like I said, it was the largest one since the beginning of the war. And in total, the air defense forces of Russia claimed to have shot down 14 of the Ukrainian drones that came in, and the Russian MOD also reports the destruction of 20 drones over the Moscow region, and in total, 144 drones took part in the attack, according to the Russian MOD. So take it with a grain of salt, it is the Russians saying this, and they love to lie about the numbers all the time, but this is what the Russians are claiming. So by any metric, this was a very large attack, and Ukraine really did some damage on Russia. So let's take a look at our first video and see what happened. And right here, you can see there was one of the first arrivals in the Moscow region. That was a drone that went right into the side of one of their residential buildings or something like that and did some significant damage to it. So there are some speculations out there that maybe the Russian electronic warfare equipment might have interfered with the flight path of these drones, causing it to go into the side of this building. But that's up to speculation right now, but there appears to be a Ukrainian drone going into the side of a building, and we'll have to leave that up to speculation as to how it got there. But clearly significant damage on that front. And with that, we're moving into our next article, and this one goes to Visegrad 24. And not only did we see various targets across Moscow being hit, but for the first time ever, Ukrainian drones struck the Domodedovo International Airport in Moscow, and it's the second largest airport in Moscow after the Sheremetyevo Airport in the other part as well. So significant damage to that airport, and we actually have the video of the moment it was hit. So let's take a look. And as you can see right here, there's a lot of smoke coming off of this airport, and there's plenty of damage being done right there on the ground. And there are some fires right there on the edge of the airport as well. So that airport, which is one of the largest ones in Moscow, was hit last night, and they had to cancel the flights coming into that airport. So significant damage indeed. This was a multi-pronged attack by Ukraine. There was no specific target in Moscow that was being hit. It was just drones flying everywhere and hitting everything it could possibly find. So the airport was also one of those targets. But with that, we also have some more evidence here of where this was, and right here you can see it's sort of to the south of Moscow, and right down here, there's where that Domodedovo airport is right here. And that was not the only airport that was hit, and in our next post right here, we actually see another one that was hit, and this one was also in the Moscow region, and it was the airport of Zhukovsky. So they're claiming here in this post that debris from one of the drones fell onto the territory of the airport, but it's up to speculation. It could have been a direct attack, or it could have simply been debris from one of the drones that Moscow might have shot down. So let's take a look at the photo right here, and you can see there is a fire right there next to one of the planes. So it must be on the taxiway of the airport, which is quite bad right there next to the plane. And also we do have a video as well showing some of the fire, so let's take a look at that one. So right here, this appears to be inside the terminal of the airport. There's the fire raging right outside of the airport terminal window, and all the passengers are looking onto this whole situation right here, probably in horror, thinking, oh my god, there's our flight, and there's a fire right there on the runway. So I doubt they'll be getting on that plane anytime soon, and the flights are probably going to be canceled for a little while. There's no telling, but it's looking pretty bad. But jumping into our next one here, we actually have the location of this airport as well. And this airport is actually not too far away from the other one that was hit. There's the Domodedovo Airport right down here toward the south, and over here you can see here's the Zhukovsky Airport right over here, sort of to the right of the other airport. So not too far away from each other, and they were both hit simultaneously last night, causing significant damage. So very good to see that the Ukrainians are successfully hitting targets. But with that, we're jumping into our next post, and this one goes to Nexta, and we actually got some daytime footage of the wreckage of one of the drones, and this is footage from the Zhukovsky Airport, which we just got done taking a look at a moment ago. So let's take a look at this video. So just a quick correction, there's actually no debris in this footage right here, but this does show you the displaced passengers from this airport. They're currently stuck in the parking lot of the airport, and they're camping outside because their flights have been canceled, and obviously there was a fire on the runway. So these guys are all just standing outside in the parking lot. I guess they were kicked out of the building, I assume, or otherwise why would they hang out in the parking lot? But they're all out here stranded until their flights can be returned. So very interesting to see, and there's the aftermath of that attack at this airport. But with that, we're jumping into our next article, and this one's going to go to Visegrad 24. And this is yet another video of a drone attack on another target in Moscow, so let's take a look and see. This is a very short video, but let's see what happened. So as you can see, a massive explosion right there on the side of that building, appearing to be a drone impact right there in the middle of this Moscow area. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, and this one goes to War Translated. And not only did we see attacks in other areas such as Moscow, we also saw some attacks on Bryansk, Russia, and it was filmed numerous explosions from drones that attacked the city, and the Russian sources claim 21 UAVs were allegedly shot down. So this is in Bryansk, so it's obviously outside of Moscow. So let's take a look at this explosion. So this appears to be a gas station, and right over here is a big explosion from a drone. You can see these people ran back inside the convenience store of the gas station, and they're currently pointing and screaming at the drone blowing up over there on the side. So another attack on some target over there near the gas station. I'm not sure what that was, but it was hit. But with that, we're jumping into our next one, which goes to Nexta, and we're going to switch topics just a little bit to talk about the ballistic missiles that were sent to Russia by Iran. And right here in the post, we can see the U.S. has confirmed that Iran has supplied ballistic missiles to Russia and announced new sanctions against Tehran. And according to the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the Iranian ballistic missile deliveries will allow Russian forces to use them for short-range strikes and to use their arsenal for targets farther from the front lines. And also, Blinken announced the sanctions over the arms supplies, and according to the Times, Russia has received a shipment of more than 200 missiles. So this is not a lightweight shipment whatsoever. 200 ballistic missiles, that's actually quite a number, and Iran has officially delivered those to the Russian Federation, and right now they are being basically put into use by the Russians in the next couple of weeks. So not good whatsoever. And we also received some more information here in our next post, which goes to Insider Paper. We can see that they're set to use them within a few weeks, says Blinken as well. So like I said, not good. They're going to be used in a couple of weeks because that is not something Ukraine needs right now, is Russia to get armed with more ballistic missiles. But moving on here, we can actually get a better idea of what the response is going to be from the United States to respond to the situation. And also they said that they will be announcing new sanctions on Iran. This is the United States, by the way, including on Iran Air. So clearly the United States is going to go the sanctions route to punish Iran. So I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to actually deter them from doing it, because Iran's already been sanctioned, and yet they still sent missiles to Russia. So I'm not sure if the sanctions route is actually going to solve anything, but that is the current route the United States is taking. So we'll have to wait and see if that actually prevents anything from happening in the future, because I have some doubts about that. But anyways, jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Guy Elster, and we're also receiving some more disturbing news about Russia and Iran's relationship. And we're being told in a bombshell statement that the Russian Security Council says Moscow will sign a new bilateral treaty with Iran. So this means that Russia and Iran are strengthening their ties with each other. So not only have previous sanctions not worked, but also Russia and Iran are developing new ties that we've never seen before. Not good whatsoever on this front. I think the U.S. is going to do a little bit more than sanctions to actually prevent this alliance from growing stronger, but let me know down in the comments below what you think about the situation, because of course I'm sure the opinions are varied on it, and I'll be curious to see what y'all think as well. But with that, we're jumping into our next article, and this one goes to War Translated once again. And on the topic of Ukraine and Russia coming to the negotiation table, which literally nobody brought up, Shoigu made a statement on that today, just out of the blue. Shoigu now says that there will be no negotiations with Ukraine until the Ukrainian military is quote-unquote thrown out of Russian territory, and he said, until we throw them out, we naturally will not talk about negotiations with them. But the only catch is, I can't remember Ukraine asking for negotiations, so Shoigu is basically telling himself that because nobody asked for them. So Shoigu is just basically saying, I guess, screw you, Ukraine, we don't like you. I don't know what he's saying at this point, but Shoigu is once again on a drunken stupor, and he's out here being goofy. But moving on to our next post, we're moving on to this one, which goes to Nexta. And you might remember me mentioning about the Kursk nuclear power plant. We're currently learning today that the plant has been closed for transit traffic, and the traffic through the industrial zone of the Kursk NPP is closed to ensure additional security under the conditions of the counter operation regime operating in the region, said the governor Alexei. So right now, this is the official reason the Russians are locking it down, is because it's having to do with safeguarding the plant, basically. But in reality, I think the Ukrainians might be maybe turning toward the plant or something like that, or maybe the troops are simply encroaching on it, because obviously there still is an invasion in the area, and we're really not being told where the Ukrainian forces really are, and they could be approaching the plant once again, which is maybe why they locked the plant down so suddenly. But truth be told, if the Ukrainians really want this plant, this lockdown is not going to prevent them from taking it, but it may make it a little bit more difficult, but there's no telling. We'll have to wait and see on this one, but I think the Ukrainians could take the plant if they really wanted to. But anyways, moving into our next post here, this one goes to the Kyiv Post, and we're also getting some very good rumors floating around in the background that Blinken will arrive in Kyiv with his British colleague to announce that Ukraine is allowed to strike Russia using ATACMS, says one of the journalists, and his visit to Ukraine is reportedly scheduled for tomorrow. So that would be on Wednesday. So we'll have to see, because this is one of these unconfirmed rumors floating around, and we'll have to see if it actually comes to fruition or not. But this is very promising to hear that the ATACMS may be allowed by Ukraine to be used on Russian territory, because that would be a huge help to the Ukrainian forces. So hopefully this is true, and tomorrow we'll find out. But with that, we're jumping into our last post of the day, and this one goes to Politico Europe. And also, a lot of people have been asking about where China falls in this entire situation with the Ukraine war, because we're hearing a lot from North Korea, and we're hearing a lot from Iran about strengthening ties with Russia, but where is China? Because right now they've gone awfully silent, and we're not hearing much about them. So right now we're learning from the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell that Beijing is giving Moscow very substantial help to beef up its war machine, and in return, Russia is handing over its closely guarded military tech on submarines and missiles. So one thing I will say is I have no doubt that China is providing substantial help to Russia. That would only make sense because China wants to wear down the West in Ukraine by basically supplying Russia with all they can to force the West to keep sending more and more weapons to Ukraine and depleting our stockpiles that way. So I have no doubt that Beijing probably is giving substantial help to Russia, but the one part that really sets off like a red alert in my head is whether or not Russia is actually handing over closely guarded military tech, because nothing Russia really has is like state of the art or anything like that. And the fact that China would want their submarine and missile schematics seems a little bit out of kilter to me. I'm not sure if that's actually the case, but that is the official report, and for now we'll just have to go with it. But let me know down below what you think about that. Do you think that China is really trying to get Russia's tech? Because I have some doubts about that. But anyways, that is actually our last post of the day. So if you found today's video informative, and I hope you have, please press the like button on the video and also subscribe to the Enforcer channel as well to get more daily short war updates just like this one. We try to put them out every day that we have enough news to cover, and today was one of those days, so here you go. And also, be sure to go over and check out our Patreon page as well. The link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership and support the channel that way. And we're largely crowdfunded by the viewers, so every bit of support is a massive help to our operation, and it helps to keep us running. So with that, we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our nightly war news stream, and with that, bye-bye for now.